Good afternoon, everybody. Buon pomeriggio a tutti. Thanks for your presence. In my quality of president of the Italian-Cypriot Chamber of Commerce, it's a great pleasure to open the exclusive small talk session that we will have today with the Shipping Deputy Minister of the Republic of Cyprus. And first of all, I express my gratitude to His Excellency Vasilios Demetriades for the availability and the presence today. The focus of the event will be the tender, as you know, for the establishment of a ferry link connection between Cyprus and Greece that foresee the deadline for the presentation of the offer the upcoming 29th of January. And the aim of the small talk between the Shipping Deputy Minister and my colleague Federico Franchina, maritime lawyer and Vice President of the Cypriot Italian Chamber of Commerce, is to deepen the subject, also starting from some specific questions raised from our members and partners. Before to leave the floor to Federico, I would like to remark the commitment of the Italian-Cypriot Chamber of Commerce in the promotion and development of the business relation between the two countries in all the sector, including, of course, shipping. That is a sector where we are particularly present from the beginning of our institutional activity, and where we believe there is a lot of potential in terms of cooperation between Cyprus and Italy. And the focus of today's discussion is for sure a further confirmation. Let's start then, please, Federico.
So, Giuseppe, thank you. Thank you very much to everybody. It's a very pleasure and honor for me too. To coordinate this specific format about Smart Talk on the Cyprus-Greece ferry link. Just to remind the relevance of Cyprus in the shipping sector, the account of on GDP from shipping, and what Cyprus has done and is doing in the shipping as a very important countries and legislation across Europe. I would like to thank very much the Minister, Vasilios Demetriades, that has been appointed last July as a Shipping Deputy Minister. And I have to say that his appointment has been very welcome due also to this maritime policy expertise, because we have to remind that Mr. Demetriades worked as a policy officer in the Directorate General of Mobility and Transport of the European Commission. Also, he has coordinating the European Maritime Transport Strategy and its revision, as well as the EU external maritime transport relations. He also was the head of European Union Affairs Unit at Cyprus Ministry of Transport, which was also in charge of shipping and integrated maritime policy at the time. And so we have a minister, but I think that for Italian shipping community, but also for European one, it's very, very good news to have one of us, as I can say, as a maritime lawyer, so person who is directly involved in shipping question, in shipping issue as well. Just to make some word about the tender, as you know, most of us know, this tender is a part of a very great strategy from Cyprus to restart the link between Cyprus and Greece that until the beginning of 2000 existed. And of course, as many comments has added, has been replaced by the airline and the air transport. So I kind ask to the minister to explain also the economic, but also the politics grounds of this choice that also in Greece lawmakers have welcomed and are fully agreed to the restart of this important connection. So please, Minister.
Well, Giuseppe, Federico, I would like to thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to address, let's say, the Italian shipping and economic community in order to provide feedback and information about this new initiative by the Cyprus government. And from the first meeting we had 3-4 months ago, I already share with you my willingness to explore synergies with Italy, and through maritime transport also to find ways to cooperate, because both countries, they do have vested interest on the maritime transport sector. We belong to the same base in the Mediterranean Sea, and we consider that is always worth exploring, exchange of views, exploring synergies and cooperation, and also participating in common projects. So, of course, I understand that the main topic of today's virtual meeting is to provide more information and to respond to your questions about the Cyprus-Greece ferry link. And I'm happy to respond to questions from your audience as well. Just to mention that it's already, we are within the framework, the time frame of the open tender, which the time frame will end on the 29th of January. Till then, companies, operators will be able to submit their proposal. But before going to the details, allow me just to inform you about the political importance, of course, and why we are doing that. As you very rightly mentioned in your introduction, the whole idea, appeared to because of a strong public interest in Cyprus for alternative connectivity. It's been some times now in the past that the general public, it was a massive expression of support from the general public to put in motion the process of reestablishing this ferry connectivity. So it's been already 20 years that this regular service stopped. And responding to the request of the Cypriot citizens, we have approached the European Commission, and by submitting our proposal and most of the technical specifications from the European Commission, the European Commission interpret this service as a service of a general economic interest, and gave us the green light to proceed with an open tender to provide national funds to subsidize this service, as long as we are talking about the passenger element of the whole service. So the idea is that we got the green light. We tried to, let's say, to negotiate and clarify a number of issues with all the relevant ports. And now we have formulated the final tender conditions, which are now in public and available in the electronic platform of the e-procurement platform as required by the European Commission. And hopefully we will receive a lot of proposals, so in order to make the best possible choice.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I would like to remind some essential terms of this tender. The duration is up to 3 years, but with an option for other 3 years. And the subsidies counts for 15 million for the first 3 years, and then other 15 for other 3 years. The deadline is 29th of January, and questions and comments, explanatory notes can be uploaded until 15th of January. Minister, you have mentioned the position from DG Comp. I honestly didn't find the letters or the documents from the DG Comp, but and of course the fact that this tender is part of service of general economic interest is of course a fundamental point from European point of view, and how European Commission is looking also to East Mediterranean area. Do you think, does the DG Competition has put a limit in the subsidiation of time limit in the subsidiation of this line? Because well, after 20 years, market condition in the ferry link and the maritime have changed. So does the DG Comp has left a window for another period after the 6 years?
Well, that's a good question. According to the information that we have provided to the European Commission, and all the clarifications we submitted, and all the questions that they have asked to us, the response from DG Comp was that they consider that a public service contract of 3 years with the possibility of an extension of a further 3 years is considered as an adequate period for such a service to be tested in order to prove whether the service is adequately used by the wide public, so that the provision can still be considered as a general economic interest, or as to whether the demand renders the service economically viable and thus no public subsidy will be required, or whether the service is not used by the public to justify its provision as a service of general economic interest, and that the contract should not be extended. So the idea is that they consider the 3 and the possibility of another 3 years, the 3+3, as an adequate period for such a service, that the government, the public sector should be subsidize this service in order to show whether there is a wide public interest behind. Because you can understand that the public cannot subsidize a link that nobody is interested. So we have managed to, let's say, Cyprus as an island member state of the European Union, it was the only one not connected by sea with the continental Europe. And this was one of the biggest, let's say, arguments we had towards establishing this alternative connectivity. And of course, the European Commission granted that approval on the grounds that this service should work to prove that it's of public interest. But if at the end of the day, nobody or a minor, a very few numbers of people will be using that service, then we have to reevaluate our policy and see if it's worth continuing subsidizing as a government this service. So this is the idea. So we are starting with 3. Towards the end of the contract, we'll reevaluate to see if there are grounds to provide a 4th, a 5th, or 1 or 2 or 3 extra years to prolong the contract. and then we will see. And because we should not forget that the type of the vessel is a RoPax, so the idea of the operator is not just to provide a passenger service, but also to carry cargo, although we are just subsidizing the passenger element and perspective, but the operator is free also to provide any commercial, let's say, to explore any cargo potential on that link, which is something that possibly it would be worth exploring in order to make that service viable.
Yes, indeed. When I read the tender, to be honest, I thought that is an interesting experiment of regulation and economic approach, because, as I said, after 20 years, many things have changed. So it is an important test in order to be sure if a market solution could be viable or not. Same, for example, we are experimented in Italy with a connection with the islands. So every time, every couple of years, we have a stress test in order to have an evaluation, as you said. Before to go into the deep of the contract, just another consideration about the economic grounds, because you have rightly mentioned the fact that this is not a tender only for passengers, but also in order to improve the cargo connection between Cyprus and the rest of Europe. So in this sense, we can say that this tender have different values from enhance tourism in Cyprus, but also to implement the connectivity and cargo, so in the carriage of goods, as for example, the pandemic has shown the necessity to have in a few times, in a very really couple of days, goods, not to be dependent by the liner in the container ship. So I think, can you say something about this economic purpose of this tender, just not only for passenger, but for cargo too?
No, just to clarify, the aim and the main objective of the tender is to subsidize the transportation for passengers. Okay, the aim of the tender, and you will not see in a tender any provision or any evaluation from our side in relation to the volume of cargo. But because of the type of the vessel, which is a RoPax, the operator is, of course, free to provide this option to both, let's say, destinations, connecting Cyprus with Greece or with continental Europe. He's free also to provide to all the importers or exporters from both sides the opportunity to carry cargo volumes on that connection, which is something that is out of the tender procedure. But indeed, the operator has the option not only to carry passengers but also cargo. But we just in that tender procedure, we just evaluate the perspective, and of course we are just subsidizing the transportation for passengers, and there is a very clear distinction in the tender procedures on that. But there is adequate flexibility to the operator to make his own business plan and accommodate and provide service also to carry cargo in that connection, in that service. And of course, to respond directly to your question, whether there are economic opportunities, well, certainly there are new, we could say that there are also opportunities, business opportunities derived from such a project. which we are, I mean, hopefully we would like to see, because for such a project to be sustainable and viable, we do not only, of course, rely on the passengers, but cargo is also an important element.
Yes, indeed, because as I said, yeah, I can see in the tender, thank you very much again, the RoPax ferry has a minimum requirements, of course, compliance with European Union legislation is of course the normality now, but you have also left to the bidder some a possibility to make a variation in the offer in relation to the duration of the trip itself. And well, in this sense about the trip, the tender provides that the route will connect Limassol or Larnaca to the Piraeus, well, to Cherastini port, and with a possible intermediate stop in a Greek island. One question that we have received regards the fact that, first of all, the choice of Cherastini port, and in relation to the absence or not of facility on the land side in order to embark and disembark passengers, and also in relation to the choice of the intermediate port. So the question in this sense is related to the fact that this choice should be maintained during the duration of the contract, or, for example, after the first year, can the ship owner, the carrier, can or not change the intermediate stop in the Greek islands?
Well, thank you for this question. First, the choice of the ports, of course, when it comes to Cyprus, we didn't want to exclude any of our ports. That's why we provided the choice either Limassol or Larnaca. So the potential operator, the candidates, they have to pick one of these ports. When we approached the Greek authorities, the Greek Shipping Ministry and the Piraeus Port Authority, and we explained to them what kind of a vessel it will be, what sort of service it will provide, meaning RoPax carrying both passengers and cargo. And we should not forget that Cyprus is a non-Schengen country still. So, and the fact that they will have to provide some arrangements pertaining to immigration, custom control procedures, and of course passport control as well. They considered that Cherastini is the right option. So it was a suggestion by the Greek Port Authority of Piraeus to provide Cherastini. And of course, the Greek authorities, they promised that the port, they will provide access to all the passengers and services, and also they will provide the service to the nearest, let's say, metro station in Piraeus, because the Cherastini terminal, if I'm correct, is just 3-4 kilometers from the main Piraeus port terminal. So the passengers, they will receive the same service as being on the main port. So that was the option provided by the Greek authorities. That's why Cherastini was named as the terminal from the Greek side. And when it comes to the intermediary port, the operator is free either to submit a tender proposal without any intermediate port, just going from Limassol or Larnaca directly to Piraeus, or to introduce in his route or in her route an intermediary port that he or she has to specify in as part of the tender procedure. And the reason of doing so is that you can understand that we have to be very transparent when we evaluate. If we grant the subsidy and we sign a contract on the basis of evaluating a tender on, let's say, if the intermediary stop is Crete, then we cannot switch after 5-6 months to another intermediary port, unless there are issues of force majeure or other issues that the government authority would be willing to consider. That's why we are saying to the operators they need to make a very good business plan to explore the passenger potential even to the intermediary stop, because some destinations to Greek islands that might be popular for Cypriots to call rather than going to Piraeus. And also if they want to explore also the cargo potential from that intermediary stop to Cyprus. So it's up to them. It's, let's say, an option that they have in the tender, but they have to specify it with their offer, and they cannot change that after the signing of the contract.
Okay, thank you very much. Very clear. You have also mentioned, of course, the particular condition of Cyprus related to the extra Schengen area. These may have an impact, for example, also in relation to departure ports in Cyprus. For example, one question that we have received regards the fact that the procedure for embarkation in Cyprus, for example, due to the fact that it is an extra Schengen area, may be required facilities in Cyprus, for example, especially during the summer when you have probably a lot of passengers. In this sense, is it possible to apply for facilities on Cyprus, on the port of Limassol or Larnaca, for example, for a passenger station in order to deal with extra Schengen practice?
Well, both ports in Cyprus, they have dedicated passenger terminals and facilities for access, of course, to the port, but also to the hinterland. So what we are doing now is we are in contact with all the government authorities in Cyprus, so to make sure that all passengers using that regular service will, I mean, we are going to arrange that special arrangements will be there, a terminal that would be all the authorities to be there to make the controls as speedy as possible. So we are not expecting, let's say, any delays from the land side. So all the controls and checks will be ready for the operator, and I'm sure that when the operator will sign a contract with us, or even before signing, it will be clearly observed from our side that all the government authorities, either immigration, customs control, and the port authorities of Cyprus, we have already made a lot of meetings, and next to the passengers terminals in both ports, there will be special provisions for that regular service, not to cause any delays to the passengers.
Thank you very much. And about the terminal relations, because if I'm right, there is no specification about the terminal fares. You have attached in the tender link to the terminal operator, for example, I think in Limassol and in Larnaca too. One question that we received regards the terminal fares that are not indicated, because they have considered the impact of terminal fares on the price of the passenger tickets that is not specified. So in this sense, and due to the fact that it is a service of general economic interest, could be considered also, well, I don't have the exact word, but so in which way the government can, for example, play a role also with the terminal fares for the carrier?
Yes.
If any.
Well, indeed, we have provided the link to the respective ports' websites, but some of the terminal fares are still missing there. Indeed, this is correct. When it comes to the port fees for the passenger, this will be, of course, part of the tender, part of the subsidization, let's put it this way, so that the passenger will know that the ceiling that we have already announced will be that. There will not be, is including, of course, the port fees. For the passenger, it will not bear any extra cost. The same goes for the operator. When it comes to terminal fares on accompanied vessels or motorcycles, that is something that in the forthcoming days, the relevant ministry responsible for ports, the Ministry of Transport in Cyprus, will regulate the fares, both for the port of Larnaca and for the port of Limassol. So it will be a fee regulated by the government, because up to now we have not such a provision of service in our ports, because there are no regular lines. So nobody was using, let's say, was not carrying his car or motorbike by ship to another country. That's why this was not a regulated fare. So now the Ministry of Transport will be regulating that, but this is not a part, I must say, of the tender evaluation. It's going to be a specific fee that the ports will agree with the government, which will apply not only for this service, but for any RoPax ship calling in a Cyprus port. But I must say it will be something that it will not be that high to change any pricing policy of the operator. So I think the operator should stick to the ceiling that we have provided. And by the way, let me mention that when it comes to accompanied car, this is 75 euros for a single journey, single route. Return sailing is 150. And when it comes to motorbikes, this is 50 euros one way and 100 euros return. So this is the fare for accompanied vehicles or motorbikes.
Perfect, thank you. No, this is an important point about the cooperation inside Cyprus ministers and ministries. That is, I think, very, very a lot appreciated. About the fares related to the trip, I've seen in the tender an economic calculation that you have done. Is it, I'm not an economist, I have to be honest, but I found it very, very interesting and absolutely this is another evidence of the excellent work that the Cyprus Shipping Minister is doing. The question is if this calculation is supported by an economic study or an economic forecast for the duration of the contract, about the fares that you have already mentioned.
And you mean that fares and also the fares pertaining to the passengers?
Yes.
Which is, again, is also good to mention, is 50 euros one way and 80 euros return for passengers not willing to use a cabin. and if they want to use the cabin, is 80 euros one way and 120 is a return trip. Yes, well, the ceiling of these fares were set. We did our analysis, I must say, and we have compared the fares for the provision of passenger maritime services with similar distance that apply to other, let's say, similar services, as well as the air tickets prices that apply in the area, in order to set the maximum fare ceiling. Because our aim is to keep the fares relatively low in order to make the service attractive to the wide public. So we believe that, listen, nobody can compete aviation when it comes to time. So I think the benefit of maritime transport, in order to make maritime transport attractive, we had to keep the fares at let's say at reasonable levels, but also to attract people, because I must tell you, although Cyprus is an island, I consider this link an opportunity to build a maritime culture there. It sounds strange. We are a maritime nation. We do have we are proud of our maritime industry, but we need to bring more people closer to the sea, you know, and because we are, let's say, a bit far from continental Europe, a lot of Cypriot citizens, they never had the chance to travel by ship. So we need to provide that alternative, and in order to make it as a viable option, we consider that let's keep it at low levels.
This is the same problem, I think, that we have in Italy. So this is another common ground of the Mediterranean countries, so a common element. In your opinion, as an expert, not as a minister, the fact that, of course, the tender leaves free about the fact that the carrier can insert this line in a wider connection. For example, from Middle East and then from Greece to Italy and whatsoever. Do you believe that this could be set a place in a possible motorways of the sea, according also to European Union legislation?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, because it gives me the opportunity to clarify that the operator is not only free to suggest any intermediate port that he might consider as an asset for his business plan, but also he's free, if he wants, to add in his route after reaching Cyprus or Piraeus an extra, let's say, destination, which we do not examine in the tender procedure, but he's free if he wants that, if he wants to operate this link starting from Israel, calling in Limassol or Larnaca and then going to Piraeus. That's absolutely fine with us, as long as it stops in Limassol at the date and time that he would be able to perform the regular line. And the same goes for Piraeus. The same goes on the other end. He might choose to start from Italy, from Ancona, Brindisi, or whatever, calling Piraeus, and then perform the link from Piraeus to Limassol and vice versa. So if he considers that there are business opportunities in these connections, he or she is free to do so. But coming to the specific term now, because I was also in Brussels for years, when we talk about motorways of the seas, it's a different concept. And of course, there is the whole idea is shifting cargo from roads to the sea is promoting the modal shift and establishing let's say a motorway connecting one port of Europe with another. This is not a part of this tender, is not a part of this project, but if in the future there is an economic potential for the operators to explore this idea, then why not? But it's not what we are examining here. It's not within the scope of our, because when we, the reason I'm trying to underline this is the following. When we knock the door of DG Competition, we clearly mentioned that for us is what we are missing is the alternative connectivity. As European citizens, as Cypriots, we should not rely only on air transport. Because imagine back in 2010, 2011, with this volcano ash in Iceland, where all the airspace, closed. So we were imagine if this happened in the Mediterranean, we will be completely isolated. So we based most of our argumentation on the fact that we are isolated, we are solely dependent on air transport. So our grounds to get this pre-approval from the European Commission was based on the passenger perspective, on the citizens. So, in combination or coupled with this, of course, we do not limit that to passengers. The operator is free to provide any cargo facilities. And at the end, if this project is so successful that it will turn to be a regular line in the context of motorways of the sea, we don't know yet, because motorways of the sea is mainly addressed to freight and to cargo. That's why I don't want to link it. I like very much the notion of motorways of the sea. I wish one day Cyprus, because of its geographical location, could be a hub to facilitate maritime transport from Europe to Middle East to Africa, but we are not there yet. Let's start with this service now. Hopefully it will be, it will operate next summer. This is our time frame, if the pandemic allow us to do so. And of course, let's see what the future will bring on these business opportunities between Cyprus and continental Europe, and of course to Italy.
Yes, no, thank you again. It's a very I look this tender as a positive challenge that Cyprus is bringing to the shipping community and the European Union as well, from commercial, but also from in consideration of European value. I just have the last question, but beyond the tender from that we have received from our associate, because as you said, and Cyprus is a benchmark in the European Union for the tonnage tax system that has been recently reapproved by the European Commission. So the question that, because also in Italy we are discussing about a possible reform of the tonnage tax system as well, but what in your view are the strengths of the Cyprus tonnage tax system, and which is the element that makes Cyprus the best player inside Europe from the tonnage tax system, one of the best players?
Well, thank you for this question. Let me present the whole idea of Cyprus shipping from another perspective. Tonnage tax is, let's say, one of the very strong incentives of Cyprus shipping, but also from other European countries that they have decided to place shipping as a priority, and they have introduced the tonnage tax in order to attract ship owners to trust their flag or to invest on their local shipping industries. I must say that this is a very important asset and a strong point for Cyprus shipping, but I consider that the strongest point of Cyprus shipping is we are building on this tonnage tax. And what I'm saying, we have gradually establishing a maritime cluster here. It's not only, Cyprus is not just a flag, and it's not just a fiscal paradise as it used perhaps be 20, 30 years ago, just attracting ships, but it's one of the biggest ship management centers here. It attracts a lot of auxiliary maritime transport services, and I think the best thing that we are offering is our service. We are working 24/7 here to serve the shipping industry, to provide fast and efficient service. And I must tell you, since you give me that opportunity, that in less than a year, we'll be able to have a one-stop shop, all our services to be in one platform. So all the shipping industry will be able to have efficient service just with a click in their smartphone. This is one. Second is that the personal contact is there with everybody. I don't know if I'm lucky, but everybody has my mobile number, so they can call me anytime to respond to any request. And another thing that you will hear from us next week, linked to the tonnage tax, we will introduce some green incentives. So in Cyprus, ship owners, ship managers will have the opportunity to enjoy 30% discount on their tonnage tax if they use alternative fuels on their ships, or if they demonstrate the reduction of on their emissions to a percentage that goes beyond the European or global commitments, or they meet the energy efficiency design index of IMO, and they go beyond that. So this is another sign that Cyprus is promoting the green transformation of shipping. And I have also announced a long-term strategy for the sector. So in less than a year time, we are consulting now with the industry to formulate a long-term strategy with a vision and clear objectives for this sector. But the message that I would like to send is that we do need a strong EU maritime transport. Now I'm wearing my European hat, and I would like to mention that we do need to have a strong Europe on maritime. So we all know that EU has a different level of ambition when it comes to green commitments, but we should work all together in Europe, that Europe should be the leader on innovation. So we should strive all the efforts of the European Commission to promote research and innovation. So we should make good use of our technological advantage as Europeans in order to have an EU maritime industry that is competitive and strong. And I'm sure that also Italy has great potential to explore the maritime sector further. I know that you are also doing some great things there. And I'm happy, and this is a message to even my Italian counterpart, but also to all my good friends of the Italian shipping community. And I see one of them is already listening to us. So basically, it's a message that we are ready to cooperate, either in common projects, in exchange of views before submitting positions, because we are all on the same boat. We are working for a sector that we are all passionate, and we need to protect that sector from under any flag, but we all work for one flag, the European one. So we have a common future, and we need to make in search of brighter days for shipping. We have there is enormous potential for synergies. This is my message.
Yes, I fully agree, and I think that the Italian shipping community participants, to who I will deliver my thanks for their participation from private ship owners, operators, and also the Confitarma, the Italian Ship Owners Association. So your manifesto is very, very clear, and I fully agree. Thank you very much, Minister, for your time, for your clear answers. We do hope to have further cooperation. Cyprus, as I said, is doing very well as a cluster. I can remember that last year there was an important business operation between Cyprus Ship Management of one Italian ship owner. And this is another evidence how these two countries can work, can deliver here and in the future. So once again, thank you very much, Ministry. Thank you very much to all participants. And of course, we are here for any further comments and remarks. So please.
Just a final note from my side. First, I would like to thank you and Giuseppe for the opportunity, and to promise that hopefully in the first or the second journey from Cyprus to Piraeus or vice versa, you are also invited as a chamber. We can organize something bringing on board both communities, both business communities of both countries. We can do something together there. So this is an open invitation to explore synergies on board.
Yeah, this is important. Thank you very much. It's important for the culture of maritime. Okay. Thank you very much again, and thank you again to all participants.
Grazie mille. Grazie mille.
No, grazie ancora. So have a nice afternoon. Thank you again. Bye bye.